Yes. So, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. My humble pranams to revered Swami Pitambaranandaji Maharaj. So today we are into the second day of our 3-day lecture series by revered Swami Pitambaranandaji Maharaj on Sri Shankaracharya, his life and teachings. So I request all the devotees to turn off their microphones as well as videos, and as it was yesterday, please see to it that no one interrupts when Maharaj is speaking. You can send your questions to us through chat or through the email. You can write to us at mail@advaitashrama.org. Maharaj, I request you to kindly start the session. Revered Maharaj.
Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram. Today is the second day, and in the beginning, as I promised, let me talk about the questions which were asked yesterday. One question was about Vishnu Sahasranam Shankar Bhashya, which I had told about you yesterday. I admit I made a small error while talking, that I have taken the class in Hindi and English. That is not true. Twice I have taken the class, but both times in Hindi only. Now, those who want to see the original Shankar Bhashya on Vishnu Sahasranam, I refer to the Samata Publications Complete Works of Shankaracharya. Because it is not available with me just now, I cannot refer which volume it is. But you can find out, and along with the Bhashya, this also is there in the original Sanskrit. Those who are interested in Sanskrit original with Hindi translation, Gita Press book is there. Please find out from Gita Press, and you will get the Shankaracharya's Bhashya on Vishnu Sahasranam in Sanskrit along with the Hindi translation. Those who are interested in English translation, I found out yesterday on the internet, and the PDF of that I sent to Advaita Ashram by email. The problem there is that Sanskrit original is not given, only the English translation is given. So you please find out either from internet if any English translation with Sanskrit is there or not, or you can request Advaita Ashram to send you the PDF files. This is about Vishnu Sahasranam. Next question was how to realize a Guru. I refer to you. It cannot be replied in a short reply. I refer you Swami Vivekananda's Bhakti Yoga. There is a chapter on the criteria of a Guru. And he starts telling about the criteria of a Shishya first, and then talks about the criteria of the Guru. The implication is very clear. You test yourself on the criteria of the Shishya. And if you are satisfying that criteria, Guru will automatically come to you and you will be able to find it. So, how to realize the Guru? Check yourself. Swami Vivekananda's Bhakti Yoga, chapter on characteristics of a Guru. Find the characteristics of Shishya there, check yourself, and then you will get the Guru. Third question was, what is the significance of Saundarya Lahari? I may be able to tell about it toward the end or in the later portion of today's lecture. One question was asking me to explain Man, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar. It is a very important topic but not so much relevant in our series today. But when the question is asked, one hint I want to give you, which is very, very, very important. What we mean by Buddhi and what the Shastras tell about Buddhi are different things, please. Wherever Buddhi occurs in the Shastra, it has been a great difficulty with most of the students. Wherever in the Shastra Buddhi is referred to, it is referred to Bodha, not Buddhi. We have a consciousness, and that consciousness is of the type of I consciousness. And that I consciousness has to get replaced by Brahma consciousness. So, Buddhi in Shastras means I consciousness, not the intellect by which our meaning of Buddhi is the rational faculty. And rational faculty is included in the mind, please. In the Shastras, rational faculty, analytical faculty, coming to a solution by a process, all this is included in the mind itself. And this has become a big mistake in most of the students of Vedanta. Buddhi in the Shastras means Bodha. Buddhi in the Shastras means I consciousness. Buddhi in the Shastras means in many places heart. Buddhi Guha, that is a cave of the heart. Bodha Guha, I consciousness Guha. We are not discussing that immediately. I told you this is not directly in the reference with today's topic. Those who are interested may find my scores of lectures on that topic, but today I refer to only this important point, that Buddhi in the Shastras does not mean what we think of Buddhi. Our Buddhi is the analytical faculty, ratiocination. This is included in the Shastras in the mind itself. Now, one question asked by many people is the comparison between Shankara's Advaita and Sri Ramakrishna's Advaita. Let me tell my secret to you. That is the question for these 3 days. But it has to come in a proper order. What I am trying to tell you first is, find out what Shankara is. And when we understand Shankara fully, then we will come to comparison. So this topic will come tomorrow, not today. Please be patient. And we cannot rush into comparison unless we know both sides clearly. So let us complete my presentation of Shankaracharya first, then we will come to comparison. And that is the purpose of this lecture series. Actually, that is what Shuddhananda wanted from me. And that is what he understands. A lot of misconceptions, misunderstandings in the Ramakrishna mission, in outside world. And so, that topic is to my heart, most important topic, that is the topic of this series, but I will take it up tomorrow, after I have been able to present Shankaracharya in full. Now now I have come back to our series, questions I have dealt with, and I told you yesterday we will resume from this point. And the point was the psychological moment of history when Shankara was born. Buddhism, I am not referring to Bhagwan Buddha, please. When I talk of Buddhism, Buddhist philosophy, or Buddhist religion. I am not referring to Buddha, please. The Buddhist philosophers, I am referring to them. And Kumaril Bhatta had defeated them in arguments. But the decaying Buddhism was present. Throughout the country, the decaying Buddhism was present. On one side, preaching Shunyavad or Vijnanavad, not Shunyavad. And on the other side was Kumaril. What happened by this decadence of Buddhism, starting from Bhagavan Buddha himself. For a particular point, that in the Vedas there is Pashu Hinsa. Every yajna has to be performed. Most of the yajnas require some Pashu to be given bali. So Bhagavan Buddha said, Vedas are not proper. Let us throw the Vedas. And then what happened? Hinduism, as we know it today, is the product of Buddha's preaching. Though we removed Buddha, we did not like that, but we adopted the vegetarianism, and all that has come to India historically only after Bhagavan Buddha preached that. I will refer to a small thing. In the south part of India, when I say south, I mean Tamil Nadu, because I lived there for 10 years. You know what the vegetarians are called there? Shaiva. In North India, you will find Vaishnav Dhaba. And in Tamil Nadu, vegetarian food is called Shaiva. Because in the Dravid area, pre-Vedic Dravid religion, there was a Shiva worship, and that required people to be vegetarians. When the Vedic Aryas spread their religion in South India, the South Indians saw that these Vedikas are always eating fish, always doing yajna and eating meat. That is what they saw. And to distinguish themselves from that, they called their food as Shaiva food. So, remember, there was a stream of vegetarianism, non-Vedic. And the Vedas require hinsa. You find such references in the Vedas. A rishi has gone to other ashrama as a guest or visitor. The youngest disciple in that ashrama is telling his friend, today the tenderest calf has gone because a guest has come. So, we do not want to discuss those things. But what happened was, if the faith in Vedas was gone, what will a man hold on to? Everybody cannot appreciate the highest moral philosophy of Bhagavan Buddha. Impossible. And another thing with Bhagavan Buddha was that we lay this blame to Shankara. Buddha says everybody should become a sannyasi. That also proved to be the cause of decadence. So Kumaril, that I told you yesterday, if you remember, Kumaril became a Buddhist, learned their methods, came out, and now the next question is this defeating in debates. Today it is of no use. There was a time when in Sanskrit or Indian languages we will say people were Buddhivadis. Today we are not Buddhivadis, we are Buddhijivis. We sell our Buddhi and eat food. What is Buddhivadi? If you convince a man through his Buddhi that such and such is true, he becomes your fellow. He changes his religion, changes his philosophy completely. Do we do it today? So, Buddhivad days are gone, but those were the days of Buddhivad. The philosopher's age, as they call it. So, to convince others, only this rational method was left. And that is why Kumaril Bhatta used those methods, Shankar had to use those very methods. Now, that was the time when Shankara's advent came. Kumaril had regained faith in Vedas with the help of Vedic Karma Kanda only, not with the Jnana Kanda. Buddha could see that Vedic Jnana Kanda, but people would not understand to separate. So he said, all Vedas are gone. Kumaril took the opposite side. Karma Kandas are valid. They are the only means. Now what does Karma Kanda give us is our question. Karma Kanda gives us heaven. It tells us this work is bad, you will go to hell. This work is good, you will go to heaven. And they believe that if we continuously go on doing work, we will always remain in heaven. That is the moksha. If you read Swami Vivekananda's works, you will understand no permanent moksha is possible, no permanent hell is possible. And this we read in Mundaka Upanishad yesterday. And I told you that is Shankara's autobiography. Pariksha lokan karma chitan brahmano nirvedamayat nasti akrutaha krutena kim syat. A man should examine all the lokas obtained by karma. Two types they say, only karma or karma with some upasana. All the lokas, including Brahma lokas, he should examine by all the known means to him, Shruti, Yukti, Anuvati, and find out that important play is all our sadhus. What you gain by karma is finite, there is nothing infinite to be gained by karma. Please read Swamiji's Karma Yoga critically, completely. Swamiji has said no, karma can be perfect and karma can never give us perfection. Swamiji's Karma Yoga, Swamiji is telling this, please. So, but man wants happiness and he became deluded. One point was good, that we got faith back into something. And the faith was in the highest scriptures of the world, Vedas. So, at that point, Shankar came into this scene. So he has two Purva Pakshas ready-made before him. One is the ritualistic Karmavadis, the other was the Vijnanavadis of Buddhism. That is what I was telling you yesterday. Keep this in mind. And Shankar had to engage in debates, that point will come much later. So yesterday, historically, we left Shankara with his guru for 3 years. And 3 years he was with his guru at Omkareshwar. He became perfect in his assimilation of the Vedanta religion. Vedanta is a religion, mind you, not philosophy. Philosophy, I repeat, is intellectual pursuit of truth. And what we shall do? Our intellect may understand many things and nothing comes to our life. Do you know, I told you, in Aparakshanubhuti class I told that. We have 6 means of knowledge, divided into 2 groups, Pratyaksha and Apratyaksha, or Pratyaksha and Paroksha. And any knowledge by Paroksha or Apratyaksha means can never replace the influence of Pratyaksha knowledge in us. Important thing. So you may be intellectually convinced Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya, your life is not affected. Pratyaksha can be removed only by Super Pratyaksha. 2 types of Super Pratyaksha is there. One is called Alaukika Pratyaksha in Vedantic terminology, the other is called Aparoksha. non-indirect. In Vedanta, our mind is made of Desha Kala Nimitta. In the modern age, it was the German philosopher Kant who found out that the mind is made of space-time causation. And Kant tells us that we can never know the real nature of anything in the world, leave alone God. Even a dust particle, he says, we can never know the real nature. Because all our knowledge we gather through the mind. And as we try to gather through the mind, the network of mind, the web of the mind, in that whatever is projected, that much only we know. So all our knowledge becomes colored by space, time and causation. And we have the habit of asking question, why? You know how many things we assume when we ask why God created the world. You mean, what are the things you mean? There is somebody other than God. That somebody can influence God. God has some wants, so He will do something. All these are nonsense in relation to God. God or Brahman is defined in the Upanishads as the reality when the world was not there. The reality eternal. There is nothing other than the reality, even without a second. So the question why does not reach there. So the question is totally irrational. How can we reply to that? We are judging God only through the prism of space, time and causation. We are judging the world through the prism of space, time and causation. Swami Vivekananda described in the second chapter Bhakti Yoga that God or Saguna Ishvara is the highest reading which our mind does in relation to the reality Nirgun Brahma. So, this why is nonsense in relation to God. We may have why in the world which is full of space, time and causation. And about Tarka now let me tell you. In the Upanishads, it is stated clearly, Naisha Tarkena Matirapaneya. And in Kathopanishad, Shankar says, there is a part where Naisha Tarkena Matir Hapaneya. That means this knowledge of God, Brahman, cannot come by logic and cannot be contradicted by logic. Hapaneya means it is a matter of experience. Vedanta, or rather all Indian philosophies or thought, are described as, note down those who want to, critique of experience. The Western science makes a very big mistake. Without calibrating, without understanding the subject and the instruments, it assumes that the world is an object and we analyze the object. You understand? What do we know of the world? Other than what five senses can gather, can we know anything of the world? Swamiji in his essay Hinduism and Ramakrishna has said that knowledge gained by the five senses and by anuman or reason based upon that is physical science. The knowledge based by Swamiji's words, Yogaja Sukshma Shakti Grahya is Vedas. Yogaja Sukshma Shakti Grahya knowledge is Vedas. So the fields are totally different. And instead of trying to understand Vedanta as one of the six philosophies, best is to understand Vedanta through Vedas. Veda is the supersensuous knowledge of Devatas, And when it reaches its culmination, it gives us knowledge of Brahman. I am not discussing this further, it's a separate matter. Now, in the Badarayana Sutras, there is a sutra, Tarka Apratishtanat. Logic has no base. You see, I have been introduced to you as a student of mathematics, pure mathematics, the logic of mathematics. I have gone through that grind to understand that logic has no logic. Logic is contained, Bertrand Russell's book if you read, logic is contained only in the syllogism, on the steps only. This is a different matter. But I am telling you that Buddhivad days are gone. Shankar had to deal with them because of the wrong ideas contained in Kumaril's Karmavada and Buddhistic Vijnanavada. Now, his guru told him after 3 years of training is required, I told you. Manana, Nididasana, all that required to be complete in your knowledge. Now, his guru told him, my boy, we told you that Vishnu Sahasranam he got. Now you go to Kashi and there you will realize your further mission. So he went to Kashi. Now, 2 things are important. You may have got knowledge, but the shadow of Purva Sanskaras is with you. Shadow. I will give an example. Swami Vivekananda was walking on foot and Swamiji felt like smoking and he saw some person smoking. So he went to him and, can I smoke? He said, I belong to a very low caste. How can you smoke from my children? Swamiji went away and came back. So the shadow of the sanskaras told him not to smoke from there. His Vedantic knowledge told him smoke from there. So the shadow of the old sanskaras is with us. Now, 2 things happened with Shankara in Kashi. Once when he was going to Ganges, his path was obstructed by a Chandala. Now Chandala are the people who work in this smashan. And the Brahmins, please don't mind, especially Kerala Brahmins, they can't touch a Chandala. They will become outcast. So Shankara asked that Chandal, please leave my way, I want to go to Ganges. And now they say it was Shiva, Shankara himself in the garb of a Chandal to remove that much shadow from Shankaracharya's mind. And he said, whom you are addressing, whom you will touch? Are you addressing body or mind or soul? And in soul, where is Chandal and where is Brahman? And if you are talking about the body, you have yourself said body is unreal. So, it was revealed to Shankaracharya to get rid of caste consciousness from all Vedanta. Though the blind followers today even, I need not talk of them. So, this was the one thing happened in Kashi. Shankara could understand that in Vedanta, no caste distinction is allowed. Now, second thing happened. Commonly we believe today that Shankara did not accept Shakti. Once when he was going to Manikarnika, a very small narrow lane is there. And one woman was sitting with the corpse of her husband in the way. So Shankara asked that woman, will you please move the corpse? 2-3 times she ignored. He again requested, please remove the corpse. She said, why not you ask the corpse to get himself away? He said, can corpse move himself? He said, you have said that Nirguna Brahma creates this world. Can it create the world? If Nirguna Brahma can create the world, a corpse also can move away. In this way, the Devi explained to him the need of Shakti. And Sri Ram Krishna, the topic is coming a little, but here I refer to Sri Ram Krishna. I have always said Shakti mante have. So, to make an idea that Shankara did not accept Shakti is a wrong thing. He was made to accept Shakti by the Devi herself. That was also what it was, an emphasis on the reality of the Nirguna Brahma. Now, after staying in Kashi for some time, now all the biographies are written 500 years after Shankara and all are images. Very difficult to rely on them in finding anything from them. But we know that Bhashya Rachana he did not do in Kashi. He went to Badridham. And he found, you see, for writing a man requires a peaceful atmosphere. And so, Kashi is full of Shastrarthas. And so he went to Badridham and wrote the Upanishad Bhashyas there. Now, something happened. People say it happened in Kashi. Some people say it happened in Badri. Some people put it before or after. I am referring to a particular fact. He had reached his 16 years of life. And his Bhashya Rachana also was complete. And he knew that originally his span of life was 8, now it is 16. So from Badri he had returned to Kashi, but again he went to Badri to leave his body by Samadhi. There he met Vyasadeva. Now I will tell you some other confusion. By the name Vyasa, we are totally deluded. Vyasa is simply a degree. One who knows knowledge from this end to this end is called Vyasa. Krishna Dvaipayan Vasa of hoary antiquity, who divided the Vedas, who wrote Mahabharata, nothing beyond that. Another Vyas was there. Shankara has not made this mistake, later period make this mistake. Another Vyas came around AC, ADBC, and he wrote, his name was Badarayana Vyas. He stayed in Badridham, so his name is Badarayana. And Shankar in Brahma Sutra Bhashya never calls Krishna Dvaipayan or Vyas even. Once or twice he might have called Vyas, but always say Badarayani, Badarayani, Badarayani. He knows the difference clearly. And another Vyas came in the 2nd century AD, who wrote commentary on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. These three are different people. If you are more interested in the critical study, there is a book by Dr. Suresh Chandra Srivastava of the Allahabad University on the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. And there he has clearly shown how these three different Vyasas were there. But people in between, they will say Badarayani, they will say Krishna Dvaipayan, they do not know the difference, and all are Vyasas. This Badarayana Vyas had written a book. Name? What is the name of that book? Shariraka Mimamsa Shastra. Shariraka Mimamsa Shastra. Not Sharirika, huh? Sharirika means relation to the body. Shariraka means the reality. Let us analyze who is the reality in the body. Appears in the body, unrelated with the body, what is the reality? Let us find out. And how to find out? By Vedas. my Upanishads. So we approach in a little different way. Suppose we want to read all Upanishads together, how should we read them? Shankara has referred to it very clearly. He says, Badarayana has not put any arguments, please. Badarayana has only arranged Vedanta Vakya Kusuma Grathanarthani Sat Sutrani. Sutra means short aphorism, but Shankara has taken another meaning. Sutra means the thread in which we put flowers to make a garland. So the Vedanta Vakyas are flowers, and Vyasadeva has used a thread to put them in a proper order. That's all. And in that we found the Sutra Tarka Apratishtanat. Now, this Vyasadeva met Shankaracharya either in Kashi or in Badri, and the debate, referred to the first sutra of the third chapter. 4 chapters are there in Sharirik Mimamsa. We call it Brahma Sutra, Vyas Sutra, Vedanta Sutra, Uttara Mimamsa. The name is Sharirika Mimamsa Shastra. It has 4 chapters. So the first sutra of the third chapter he quoted. He took that and asked Shankar, what is your commentary on it? What is your opinion about it? Shankara stated the opinion. He brought in Purva Paksha after Purva Paksha, Vyasadeva himself. And Shankara replied to every Purva Paksha properly. Again, they say, some people say 8 days, some people say 18 days. He went on producing Purva Pakshas. And Shankar replied to every point correctly. Then he said, now I am satisfied. My boy, I desire you have to write a commentary on the Brahma Sutras. People have written a commentary, but I found by my own judgment that you are the only proper person who can rightly interpret them. So please write the commentary on Brahma Sutras. That was at the age of 16, I believe. Because he had gone to Badri to give it his body, and I believe, because no history is proper available, that it was in Badri this event happened. People say in Kashi, some people say in Uttar Kashi, God knows where. And then Shankara wrote his commentary on the Brahma Sutra. Now, Vyasadeva told him, another mission is before you, my boy. You have to convince people that the ultimate reality, nature is Advaita. Now please understand this word Advaita. Advaita word did not come in juxtaposition to Dvaita and Vishishta Advaita. Please understand. Advaita word first occurs in the 7th mantra of the Mandukya Upanishad. And the meaning is that in Brahman, subject-object split is not there. That is the only meaning of the word Advaita. In our experience, I am a subject experiencing objects, and this is wrong, this is Maya. And the climax of this comes in the man-woman relationship. So, understand the point? Advaita is the nature of reality. This you have to convince people by talking with them. And the method in those days was debate. So Shankar went throughout India, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, like Vivekananda, like from Assam to Dwarka. But as I told you yesterday, he missed Arunachal Pradesh. Now, and he convinced everybody of the ultimate reality in nature being Advaita, and that being the goal of life. But that was not his only work. Everybody is not fit for that. Everybody cannot even conceive of Advaita, and this Shankar knew very well. So, but a man has to progress. About the Vedas, Shankar has said, more kind than thousands of mothers and fathers. Vedas. Mata Pitru Sahasrebhyo Adhik Karunika Shruti. So Vedas cannot give up anybody. Vedas have to provide what? The way to spiritual progress for everybody. And so we find, yesterday I told you, it is in this period, Shankar travelled throughout India and he did two things. Hundreds of sampradayas were there, innumerable, and they came to argue with him, and he proved that by logic that Advaita is the only goal of life, Advaita is the only reality. Side by side, he found people on the lowest step of religion, and to him, whatever God he worshipped, he gave him the Panchayatana Puja. He told him that the ultimate proof of your worship is Vedas, because ultimately you can go to the reality. Today you cannot. You want to worship Ganesha, that will give you progress. So Shankar had a very positive outlook there, and he unified in a way the Indian religion. The name Hindu was not there, mind you. I told you yesterday. Vedic religion he called it. What a great integrating force. No, the word integration is wrong, please. I have used it. You understand why integration is wrong? Integration proposes, connotes part and whole. Advaita has no parts. So, reality and its different forms. Reality and the different stages in which a man is growing towards reality. So this is what Shankara is. Another thought current in India was Jainism. And they propose a Syadvad. They say that we cannot certainly say about anything. They say, don't say this thing is here. This thing is here, this thing is not here, this thing is and not is. 7 alternatives are there for everybody. Now about the things in the, and they say we are very broad. We accommodate everybody's views. Shankar says this can be true about everything in life, but not about Brahman. If ultimate reality you talk like this, it may be, it may not be. So, he had to debate with Jainis also. Now, let us take our main issue. So we have found, today itself, we have found Shankar has accepted Shakti. Shankara knows the different stages of life. Where is the point? Now, we take up Gita. To understand Shankar and Ramakrishna or Swami Vivekananda, we have to go before them. And there is something Shruti and the Gita. Now, we are here. In the Gita it is said, Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati sanyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato muni. You understand? Now, this realization does not come by a jump. Just now I talked of alaukika pratyaksha. So there are stages of evolution of man's consciousness. Actually, the evolution is in the mind and the soul manifests. I remember here some incident. In Ludhiana, there is one Gurudwara Javadikala, Gurudwara Guru Gyan Prakash. And there they had invited me for a 3-day seminar on body. And then I had to read a paper, 45 minutes. And then equal time for question and answers. A man asked me, you are telling Atman is Nitya, unchanging, and how do we talk of Atma Vikas? Understand? I told him, I did not use Atma Vikas in 45 minutes. But I accept that the word is used, and there Atma does not mean the Nitya Atma. Indian thought will give those names which are experienced. Today's body is ourself, is it not? The fact of the matter is body is myself. So body is called Atma. When we grow in our thought, Indriyas are our Atma, so that is called Atma. Mind is our Atma, so that is called Atma. This I consciousness is called Atma, so that is our Atma. So Atma Vikas means the evolution of our mind, not of the Atman. And Swamiji has given a beautiful expression, evolution of nature and manifestation of soul. So the soul manifests itself more and more as our mind evolves. And evolution of mind means making it more and more corresponding to the nature of the soul. So there are stages. I will experience God. I will experience myself as body. I will experience myself as Indriya. I will experience myself as the mind. I will experience myself as the I consciousness. I will experience myself as the bliss. So, what to call them? In comparison with the nature of the highest reality, all these are unreal, is it not? In comparison to the nature of the absolute reality and my experience of the absolute reality, all these are unreal. This is one way to look at it. One way. The other way, they are more real than our present experience. If we are going nearer to God, Swami Vivekananda says we are taking photo of the sun. At every stage, it will be a photo of the sun, not the sun itself. And that is why Swami Vivekananda's statement, you remember, a man does not proceed from error to truth, he proceeds from lower truth to higher truth. Truth to truth, lower truth to higher truth. Now, we have reached the Absolute. So, about the nature of the Absolute and about today's experience, Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda and Shankaracharya, they are one and the same. About the intermediate steps, in relation to the highest, they are unreal. In relation to our present experience, they are more real. And this, in Vedantic terminology, is called Alaukik Pratyaksha. One example I will give you. Swami Vivekananda meditates and he finds in the meditation at such and such place people are talking like this. He being of the scientific frame of mind, scientific means physical science. He wants to experience it by his indriyas. So he goes there and finds out, yes, they are talking the same thing. It started disturbing him. And Sri Ramakrishna told him, don't meditate for some days. Gain control yourself and then come back to meditation. So, this is one example of Alaukik Pratyaksha. Indriya is not in contact with that object, but he is seeing more directly. Other types of Alaukik Pratyaksha is Sri Ram Krishna's Bhava Anubhava. Sri Ram Krishna or all the devotees, you take anyone, Ram Prasad, Kamalakanta, Panduranga, Vithova devotees, you know, Ram Prasad and Kamalakanta were devoted to the Kalighat Kali. You have seen Kalighat Kali? Only a stone without any shape, only two eyes are marked. And see Ramprasad and Kamalakanta, wonderful Rupa of Kali, you are dying in your Rupa. So this Rupa they saw by their inner vision. Bhava Pratyaksha. Pratyaksha, Bhava Pratyaksha. And it is more real than our present experience. Those who go to Pandharpur, Vithoba is a cadaverous figure. Even your Jagannath Dev, what is the figure? And the devotees are singing, wonderful is your Rupa, wonderful is your Rupa. They are seeing that. You cannot deny their experience. And it is an experience. Logic may say hundreds of things. And the experience is more real than our today's experience. And that has the power to remove the effect produced by our today's experience. And this, Sri Ram Krishna and Swami Vivekananda are telling us, man proceeds from truth to truth. Now, where is the difference? I have shown you, Shankaracharya was made to believe in Shakti by Devi herself. You know his stotras? Oh, we have not yet reported these stotras. He is telling, oh Shiva, because you married to this lady, you are called the Jagadisha. Otherwise, Kapali Bhutesho, Bhajati Jagadisha Ikapadavim. Oh Parvati, it is the marriage with you that has made Shiva into Jagadisha. Otherwise, it is the Kapali Bhutesha. So he knows very well what the Shakti is. Now, I refer to the supremely wise person in this world, to my understanding. To my understanding, I was thinking, Yajnavalkya or Gargi might have been. I do not find any other figure than Holy Mother Sarda Devi. Supremely intelligent, nobody can compete with her intelligence. Swami Vivekananda known as so much intelligent. You know one story? When he started the plague relief work in Calcutta, money was short. So he told Brahman Swami, we will sell Belur Math, we will live under trees, let the money go to relief work. Mother came to know and she called him. And she said, that day when you took me to the land, you said it is yours, mother. What right you have to sell it? He understood that he has made a trust, and all Thakur's disciples he has made trustees, and he has no power over that. So she brought him down. Sardan Swamiji has commented that in many such cases Swami Vivekananda was called away by his emotion, and mother used to draw him back by ropes and make him balanced. Anyway, there are many such incidents. Now, what has Holy Mother told us? Some sadhu approached her and said, Mother, is it not special in this incarnation that the Lord came to establish harmony of religions? Mother said, no, I don't think so. I don't think he made plans to establish harmony of religions. If you ask me the speciality of this incarnation, I will tell you, Tyag was his speciality. Such Tyaga neither people have seen up till now, not heard of. And then she said, my boy, what you say also is true. All the old Mahapurushas emphasized a particular aspect of God realization, a particular aspect of spirituality was emphasized by all old Mahapurushas, because of which other expressions became suppressed, not that they suppressed it. If something you emphasize, if it becomes overemphasized, if Shankara emphasizes something, what we know of Shankara? Through Shankarites. They overemphasize that. If he says Nirguna Brahma is superior, they say Nirguna Brahma alone is true. And this has suppressed all other bhavas. This time it has not happened so. Sri Ramakrishna has emphasized every aspect in which God can be seen. And so, harmony has been preached. You understand? Now, what is the link between these two statements, please? The speciality is Tyaga. Such Tyaga people have not seen or heard. And what you say also is true. In the old Mahapurushas, they emphasize some aspect of spirituality. The other aspects became suppressed. This time it has not happened so. What he is to do? 24 hours, live with God in all the forms in which he can be approached. I will explain it little more with an illustration given by Sri Ramakrishna himself. A man who colors clothes dies. He has a tub before him. You have read that incident? There is some fluid in that tub nobody has seen. And different people are coming to him with their white cloths. And please give me my cloth dyed in red. He would put in the same tub and give him red cloth. Allegory, eh? Different man comes, give me yellow cloth. He takes his white cloth, in the same he dips and gives back to him yellow cloth, blue cloth, green cloth. A young man is sitting near him with the cloth in his armpit, not telling. Then this man asks him, what color you want to be colored? He says, I want to get that color which is in your tube. And we appreciate that man very much. Understood? That man is Vivekananda. He wants to know the Swarup of God. But we forget that the color man is Sri Ramakrishna. Even that is a limitation. Why you want God in His Swarup only? Why not in all the ways in which God can be approached? So the link is that I want to see God in this way is I. And we have to do the supreme Tyaga of that I. Tyaga does not mean only giving up house and taking Virjavam and sannyas. Tyaga does not mean the renunciation of objects so called. Tyaga does not mean, as Shankaracharya has told, giving up work. Tyaga means give up the I or my of this form in which I want to see God. Then what happens? Then we get Sri Ramakrishna. Now, in every Mahapurusha's teaching, there are two parts. We should clearly understand. Even about Ramakrishna Mission. One part is the eternal truth put in a new form because the man's mind has changed. So it has to be given a new form. Many people ask me, especially in South India, has Swami Vivekananda told something new? If he has something new, throw it away. Veda Bhaya Smrtyo Kutarka. And if he has not told something new, what is that? I ask them, has Shankaracharya told something new? If he has told something new, throw away. If it has not told something, what is there in the Vedas? So, the Mahapurushas time and again have to reinstate the eternal truths in the language suitable to that age. And there is another factor in them. That is what we call Yuga Prayojan, the need of the age. And in this need of the age, we have to come back to people's overfaith in karma. In the name of Saguna Brahma, they are sacrificing, they are enjoying animal food. By worship of Saguna Brahma alone, man becomes a bhogi. Ishopanishad 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th mantra. By only worshipping Vishnu or all-pervading God, man gets all powers and likely to become a bhogi. So, antidote has to be given with every poison. This was Shankara's time. Through the karma, they were tending to become bhogis. And through Vijnanavad, they were tending to become selfish and asuris. You know, in Buddhism there is a Niratma Devi, because there is no Atma. And in the subtle field, if you go, so much enjoyment is open to you. Niratma Devi. So, Shankar had to emphasize something. He emphasized Nirgun over Sagun. If we go back to the Shrutis, what we find, I used to say some time back, that in Upanishad, if you get one mantra of Nirgun Brahma, it is followed by 10 mantras of Sagun Brahma. But now I have found out something new. The very mantra of Nirgun Brahma contains Sagun Brahma, please. Refer to Mundaka Upanishad again. What is Paravidya? Yattad Aksharam Adhigamyate. And what is that Akshara? Adreshyam, Agrayam, Achintyam, etc. Tad Bhuta Yonim Paripashyanti Dhira. That very Adrishya Nirguna Brahma, the wise people see him as the source of this world. The wise people see that the Nirguna Brahma is the source, Srishti Sthiti Pralaya Karta. Is it not Saguna Brahma? In the Bhagavad, in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Gargi is trying to trap Yajnavalkya. Gargi has told all the rishis, I will ask 2 questions to Yajnavalkya. And if he is able to reply, all of you only salute and go away. And the first question she asks about this Akasha, or the all-pervading reality. And then she said, who pervades it? So if Shankar gives Yajnavalkya gives a direct reply, then he is at fault, because Brahman cannot be directly replied. And if he does not get a reply, how is the greatest man? So Shankar replies by telling Gargi, those who have realized Brahman say that, and he quotes 19 negatives for Brahman. Asthula madanu arasama dirgham alohitam akayam, 19 negatives. And then he says, Gargi, it is under the rule of this supreme reality that the rivers flow. It is under the rule of this supreme reality that the Surya, Chandra are held in their position. It is under the rule of this reality that mountains are there. It is under the rule of this reality the Ritus are there, the air is there. So, is Nirgun Brahma separate than Sagun Brahma? But here, Shankar says this is for lower people. I have found 2 places where Shankara does not say so. Ishopanishad 8th mantra. Shankar introduces that mantra by telling that now we will tell you the Swarupa Lakshana of Brahman. Up till now we have talked of the Tatastha Lakshanas. You know Tatastha Lakshana and Swarupa Lakshana? A man is standing at the bank of an ocean and he says ocean is like that, like that, like that. That is called Tatastha Lakshana. And when he goes into the ocean, he will talk properly about the ocean. This is called Swarupa Lakshana. And there two words occur. Paribhu, Swayambhu. If you wanted to show that Saguna Brahma is lower, you could have easily done there, easily. Normally, Pari means Samantad. Paribhu means all-pervading reality, Saguna Brahma. And Swayambhu is generally used for Nirguna Brahma. But see Shankara's commentary on the 8th mantra of the Ishopanishad, we will feel whether Shankar is talking or Sri Ramakrishna is talking. Paribhu, Pari means Upari, Sarvasya Upari Vartate iti Paribhu, the transcendent reality. Swayambhu, write down please. Yasya Upari Bhavati, Yascha Upari Bhavati, Sa Swayameva Bhavati iti Swayambhu. Yasya Upari Bhavati means this world, he is beyond this world. Yascha Upari Bhavati, that reality which is beyond this world and this world, Sa Swayameva Bhavati, it is Swayambhu. He himself is that. I remember my friends in the training center, I quarreled with the principal who was known for his orthodox Vedantic knowledge. He exempted me from that day. You don't come to my class. There was no AB in those days. Those who know something were exempted. He said, oh, in one place he might have said like that. But, what is but? Emphasis. Emphasis. He has accepted Shakti. Emphasis. And another place. We generally hear, world is false, I am Brahman. I have heard the Vedantic lecture from the best Vedanti Swami, Ramananda Saraswati. He is nearest to Ramakrishna Mission ideology. I heard his lecture. The world is false, I am Brahman. Impossible. Impossible. If the world is unreal, you are also unreal. Shankara's commentary on the Chandogya Upanishad. There he has stated, are you talking of an unreal self? The general criticism against Vedanta. Are you talking of an unreal self chasing some unreal dreams? Shankar says, yes. If the world is unreal, I is unreal. And if I is Brahman, the world is Brahman. Sarvam khalo idam Brahma. Read Shankar's commentary on a particular portion of the Chandogya Upanishad, and he has little camouflaged it by saying Yakshanurupo Bali. You understand Yakshanurupo Bali? The god whom you worship, you have to give Bali of the god which the god likes. So if the world is false, the I which experiences that world also is false. If I is real, the world is Brahman. So, again it comes back to only emphasis. Both sides have shown you. Swami Vivekananda said, this I goes away totally. And Brahman is experienced as I. And that is Aham Brahmasmi. This Aham, like a frog, you pump it and make it a bull, is not possible. I have heard the so-called Vedantins lectures. When they say, spreading their hand, the world is unreal, means you are all unreal. And Jiva Burmaiva Napara, I am Brahman. You give me laddus, you give me dakshina, you remain what you are. So Shankar has said there, if the world is false, the I which experiences the world is equally false. Now, refer to Gita. यदा 13th chapter, यदा भूत पृथक भावम एकत्वम अनुपश्यति तत एव च विस्तारम ब्रह्म संपद्यते तदा. When a man has said to be realized Brahman, when he has seen that the many merges in one and that from one many have come, when we see this, then only he receives Brahman. Now, please, I appeal to you, study Leela Prasanga. Sardhan Swamiji says, Guru Mukhesh Sunechi. Maximum people belong to Jiva Kotis, and when they realize God, they merge into Him, they do not come back. But there are people who, having realized Brahman, open their eyes, see the world in a divine light, see the world as manifestation of Brahman. And then only Gita says, he has realized Brahman. यदा भूत पृथक भावम एकत्वम अनुपश्यति तथा एव च विस्तारम ब्रह्म संपद्यते तदा. This very thing I told you in the Mundaka Upanishad. Yattad adreshyam agrayam tad bhuta yonim paripashyanti dhira. And then this bhuta yoni, Mundaka goes on explaining, he is the river, he is the ocean, he is the mountain, he is in me. You remember Shri Ram Krishna in the evening? Man Krishna, Buddhi Krishna, Pran Krishna. So if there is any other reality other than Brahman, where is your Advaita? Another thing, Advaita Vada is a misnomer. Shri Ram Krishna has said, as soon as you make a Vada, you have come down from the reality. You are accepting many, then only Vada is possible. You are accepting many, then only logic is possible. So we go back and find the question is of emphasis. Oh, I have gone beyond 1 hour. 1 hour, what? Ram, I wanted to take this tomorrow. Anyway, please excuse me, I have gone 10 minutes past. I didn't look at the watch at all. We'll take this tomorrow again, huh? So I told you a little of this point, and I have yet to tell you about Shankara's Tantra Sadhana, the importance of Saundarya Lahari. That I will take up tomorrow, please. Excuse me, unmindful of the watch, I have gone 12 minutes away. Sudhir Maharaj, I conclude here.
Yes, Maharaj. We were all actually completely oblivious of the passing away of time, Maharaj.
Yesterday you said that you are looking at watch. I was looking up to some time, and when I did not want to enter this subject. But the moment I entered it, I lost.
Maharaj, you actually made us go into the transcendental plane actually through your talks.
But the transcendental, no, I will tell one more point. The transcendental realm is not without immanence. That is my thesis.
Yes, Maharaj, yes.
It is really transcendent. I will take it up tomorrow very clearly. Transcendence is real only when it accepts immanence.
Yes. So Maharaj, thank you so much, Maharaj.
Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Om Shanti Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanam.
Maharaj, my humble pranams to you once again. And devotees, thank you for your cooperation. And tomorrow once again we meet at 5:30 in the evening. Thank you so much.
Yesterday you said that you can go 10-15 minutes more. So
yes, Maharaj.
Okay.
Okay, the session is dispersed.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.